Hello, everyone. Welcome to Best Life by You, the podcast dedicated to helping you overcome challenges in nutrition, mindset, fitness, and relationships while prioritizing holistic health and wellness. I'm your host, Julia, and today we have an old college friend of mine and former finance coach, Brooke Busi. Brooke is a certified financial educator, former public school teacher, and founder of Brooke Builds Wealth, a financial literacy company. She spends her time reading finance books, eating Trader Joe's snacks, and helping beginners turn what the heck is a Roth IRA into look at my investment portfolio. She doesn't sell investments or financial products. Instead, she's made money fun and approachable for over 3,500 beginners through workshops, courses, and coaching. Find her on Instagram at Brooke Builds Wealth and say hi, or invite her to lead a financial literacy workshop for your university, employer, or organization. So everyone, hello to Brooke. Hi, Brooke. How are you doing today?
Hi, Jules. I'm so happy to be here.
I know. And I had to have you on because, you coached me so well. I took your program, which I'd love for you to talk about so people can take your program. But for everybody, Brooke and I met when I was at graduate school at Binghamton. You were an undergrad, and we were both group fitness instructors. We took a course together, and both of us, I think, were just so excited to learn. And that was something I remember truly about Brooke. And I'm so glad that she has her course up and going, which again, we'll get into. But just to kickstart this, Brooke, because I know you're a former teacher, I'm a former teacher. We're both now in the business world. We're both CEOs. So I would love for you to just share your story, share what you're doing now, where you started, because it is so impressive for someone so young like yourself, very motivating and doing all the things you're doing. So feel free to just jump in, share your story, and all of that.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I can start with where I began and where I started learning about money. When I was a kid,
Yes.
I was interested in money. I was interested in investing, and I had a bunch of babysitting money that I had stashed away. I was really proud of that. And I called my grandfather to brag to tell him that I had $4,000 of babysitting money, and he wasn't impressed. He was like, "Okay, well, you should be investing that." And I didn't know what that was. I didn't know how to invest. And he didn't teach me. He like used the word, but I tried to figure it out on my own. And I just had so much difficulty. Yes, I was young, but through high school, college, even my getting my master's degree, like I knew that you're supposed to do the things with money, but no one was teaching me. So after I went and got my master's in teaching, I was teaching public school during the day. And by that point, I had a really good handle on my money. I had figured it out. But I knew that a lot of other people were still struggling. A lot of my friends were asking me, how have you figured this out? Have you learned all of this? And I had read like probably hundreds of finance books at that point.
Yep.
And so I started teaching people. And then I ended up getting certified to teach finance. And I started my business, Brooke Builds Wealth.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a nice offshoot from my day job where I was teaching kids, and I started teaching adults, and providing financial education with how to set these things up, how to start investing, how you can make a budget, a holistic look, at like the A to Z finance class that you wish you had in college that's like personalized to you.
Yeah, you've been honestly so inspirational to this day. Everyone listening, Brooke created a spreadsheet. She created many, but there is one that I use for my budgeting that she created, and I use it every single month. Even after graduating the program, I'm still using it to this moment, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's incredible. It's so good, like what you've created, and I know you've inspired me because I'm working on a course to launch about nutrition and habits next year. So that's my goal. And really taking your class inspired me. And I truly give you credit because I know they tell us when we're younger to not talk about money, religion, and what's the other thing? Money, religion, and I feel like there's
Sex?
something
I
else.
don't know.
Maybe that's it as a kid. I forget. But they talk us like when I was a kid growing up, people were like, do not share how much money your family has, do not talk about money, do not talk like even asking somebody their salary was off the table. It's like you don't
Same.
talk about any of that.
I didn't know how
So
much my parents made. Like,
yeah, that same. I honestly, I still don't know. I could guesstimate. For you, how has it been for you in getting over that hump to comfortably talk about finances? Like how have you, what was that turning point for you where you just were okay making it part of the everyday conversation? And because I know it's scary. Like people are very nervous to talk about, like I said, religion, they're nervous to talk about money and finances. So I mean, your approach is after taking your course has been wonderful, but I'd love to just hear more about that. Like, how did you get over that hump of being able to talk to people about it, or just feel free to get into that.
yeah, thank you. That's a really interesting question that I've never been asked, but it's true. I am
Uh,
working on, making money less taboo, but how I like broke into that, broke over that own barrier myself. Well, first of all, my parents growing up, they didn't necessarily know how to invest, or like do the higher level money type things, but I would say that they were really good about being frugal and budgeting and like making sure that we lived within our means. And so there were a lot of open conversations about that constantly. Like, we can
Good.
afford this, we can't afford that, you know? So it wasn't necessarily okay for us to ask how much they made, but like, they're complaining about when the price of something went up. And so, like, money was part of the conversation, but maybe
Yeah.
not at that higher level. And then, honestly, my undergrad, so I did biology and health and wellness.
Yeah.
And both of those things, we talked about a lot of taboo topics, even with health and wellness.
Yeah.
There were so many different topics that I was uncomfortable like discussing in a class setting sometimes. And then even in biology, we learn all these crazy things about bodies and we have to talk about them. So I feel like breaking into those in college, like breaking into those conversations kind of made me more comfortable to talk about these like weird things.
Yeah.
And then money was way easier than some of the biology and health and wellness stuff that I was talking about when I was
Yeah.
younger. So I think it was sort of a natural between the way that I was raised with talking about it and
Yeah.
then talking about some of the topics that people can be even more uncomfortable with than money.
Yeah, I'm thinking like I'm just thinking through this of wondering, why are people so afraid to talk about finances or investment? Like, do you know, is it a fear around their money getting stolen? Is it a fear around people going to use them? Like, I don't know if you've seen this, but again, it's not like my friends, I mean, if I ask them, I don't care what they make and whatnot, as long as they're living okay and they're doing well for themselves. But that's not a topic we talk about. It's kind of been hush hush. And I don't know if it's like, if you've seen a trend of fear people have around money, like I mean, money it's a tool, it's not everything. And we live for freedom. You want to, like you talk about your freedom budget, you talk about having that budget in mind, but we shouldn't be living for that like number. We should be living for the financial freedom we get with that. So whether it's like I want a vacation with my family. So I don't know if you've seen, or we could talk about like what are people's fears around money, and what do you find that even in your program, people learn the most that they are just not aware of. Like what are people just not aware of? And you could talk about the Roth IRA, you could talk about whatever, but I'm just curious because I'm very financially like I feel like I'm very good with finances, and even with your course, I became even better. But just, I'll start off with that. Sorry, it's all over the place, but we could talk about that.
Yeah, I think it stems, unfortunately, a lot to do with public education and how people are so insecure about money because it's something that they're not confident in. Like, even as a classroom teacher, if you introduce a brand new topic to your students
Mm.
and they have no idea what it's about, and then you ask them to raise their hands and answer questions about it, they're going to be scared. No one's going to raise their hands, right? Like, you don't
Yeah,
raise even at a family dinner, like, you're
true.
not going to start talking on something that you have no idea
Yeah.
about. And so, since we don't learn any financial education in school, we
Hmm.
graduate, we're thrown into these jobs. They start telling you about the 401k, and you're like, shoot, I have no idea what that is, but I don't want to say it. I don't want to look dumb. And, I don't know how to do a budget. My parents didn't teach me. So, I think it's very much the insecurity because of the lack of education. And then, unfortunately, the lack of education leads us to making not the best financial decisions, right? So you got into a bunch of credit card debt when you were in college because you didn't understand, or with your student loans were a crazy
Mm-hmm.
high interest rate because you didn't understand. And now you're in a place where you're so embarrassed about your financial situation that you don't feel comfortable talking about it. And it probably just stems from nobody taught you what to do.
Yeah.
Like, I would say that that would be the biggest fear and insecurity with talking about money, is that people don't want to look dumb and they don't want to look like they don't have their life together, which are two, big things when you dig a little bit deeper and you see
Mm-hmm.
that the people don't really know what's going on with their money.
Yeah. So then I guess talking about it, because you're an expert, and I do want to talk more about your course and highlight that. But what would you define as a healthy relationship with money? Like what is your relationship with money? What should it be if you were to define a relationship with that?
I think being in charge, being in control, being in the driver's seat. So a healthy relationship with money is when you are in charge of your money and you tell it what to do,
Hmm.
instead of the opposite. So a lot of people are maybe spending in a way to impress others. And so, in the community where I live, people drive pretty nice cars, they live in pretty nice houses, but not
Sure.
everybody can afford these things that they have. And so when we're doing all of these things to impress others, or just like for an outside appearance, every single month it's like, shoot, am I going to have enough to pay my mortgage? Am I going to have enough to pay my car?
Mhm.
My money and the things that I've already pre-spent are now controlling my life and making the decisions for me. I have to work overtime, or I can't lose, God forbid I lose my job, I can't make ends meet, as
Yeah.
opposed to being in the driver's seat of, this is how much I have to spend. Right now, I can only live in a studio apartment, or I have to buy a used car that's 10, 15 years old. Like, when you're making the decisions for yourself and for your money, then you're able to move with a clear mind and set yourself up for where you want to be and the things you want to do, as opposed to
Yeah.
um, like handcuffing yourself to all of these bills and expenses that are not serving you. It's for show, and it's because you think you need those things.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot with like just status and being in, I mean being in Westchester, I know familiar with New York, Westchester, all of that. It's a lot of show. I've noticed of like driving, and comments get made too. It's like, did you see their car? They drive this car. And even like I've thought of for my own for myself with my car, it was hit twice on two different sides. Thank God I was not in the car. Actually, it was hit three times, but the third time somebody left a note, and at least they paid for the damage that they made on my car, thank God.
Third
But
time's the charm.
on third time's the charm, I guess. But one of the sides of my car has a really big dent in it. And every time I drive to like higher end clients, to my high end client houses or things like that, I get in my head because I'm like, they have nice cars. There's no scratch on their car. There's no this. And then here I am with a huge dent on the side. But when I asked the guy that was supposed to fix or that did fix my car, like from the damage that somebody paid for, um, he told me, he's like, in my personal opinion, as the owner of this business, do not fix it. He's like, it's not worth it. He's like, unless you're willing to spend $1,000 on this, he's like, I would rather you spend $1,000 on something else. He's like, I'm gonna just tell you straight out. He's like, if it were my car, I would not touch it. He's like, because somebody 3 months later could hit the car again, and then that's $1,000 gone. And I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, you're a good businessman. Like, you have a good relationship with money, bro, because he's not looking at it. He's like, you can drive the car, you can open the door, there's no issues. It's only aesthetic. And he's like, if you care so much more about the aesthetic, then you could take care of it. But I noticed a lot of people focus more on the aesthetic and what they look like, and what they carry around, what the latest bag is, what this. And like, I'm in my field of health and wellness and working with high-end clients, like I want to look put together. I want to have my hair done. I want to have my nails done. Like, those are things that I'm willing to invest in for myself and make sure my health. But I do know that's a huge thing. Just where I live, being one of the top most expensive, I think it was ranked like the most expensive county or area in all of the country. And so that's just something I've noticed is like what people want to spend, their relationship with it, and yeah, I mean, you've taught me so much about all of this in your course, which I do want to like pivot to, because you've built this course from scratch, and I'd love you to just share with people, what do you do? Like, what is your course? Walk me through it. Walk the listeners through this of what they could get out of your course, why it's different than the other courses. And I know because you are an incredible teacher, you're an incredible um, coach, like the way you explain it is so different than the way anybody else could explain it. So I think that for me is at least what I can be a testament to is the way you approach it is very different than somebody else, but that's just because I've experienced it. So, but for the people listening, like what, why, just explain your course, like what prompted you to call it what it's called and create the course, like talk me through it.
Yeah, so my most popular program that I have is called the Informed Investor Program, and that's what you did, Jules.
Yes.
And it's a 7-step program. And the reason that I created the 7 steps is that you start out as a finance beginner. Everybody who comes into the program is a beginner, which people define at different levels and spaces. But that's like a need to have. You need to define, consider
Yeah.
yourself a beginner. And then you leave the program as an informed investor. And it takes roughly 60 days to complete those 7 steps in order. And the reason I called it the Informed Investor Program is because what we were just talking about with finance and the fear is
Yeah.
people are insecure because they're not informed. They don't know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And the probably biggest area where people are misinformed when it comes to finance, I would say investing. And that's the area that can have the greatest impact on your wealth later on. So even though my program, as you know, is not 100% focused on investing. There's a lot of foundational work, mindset work, things that happen before I start teaching about investing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the outcome that a lot of people want to see. Like, I want to be an informed investor. So that's why I called
Yeah.
it that, because it's the outcome that you leave with. But there are so many things that we dig into with building a strong foundation for actually building wealth. And that's the name of my
Mm-hmm.
business. Brooke Builds Wealth is because it's about building long-term wealth for yourself and for your future.
Yeah. And I just going through it, like I'm not an expert in what I'm doing, but I think or I did learn enough so that I can properly have like a high yield savings account, or I can be investing in the proper stocks that are recommended to me. Like you breaking that down, I'm like, so I don't really know 100% about the stocks, but you at least show like, okay, this is where you can find information. If you want to learn more, these are the ones that I recommend. So it wasn't like I didn't have to do the brain work, the crazy brain work, which is not it like my at this point of my life, I'd rather just pay people to teach me and help me with it than me sit and spend hours and hours and hours figuring it out. And that was a promise to myself I made in the beginning of this year was figure out how I'm going to pay off my college debt, figure out how I'm going to pay off um my card debt. Credit card debt I always take care of, but like those two bits, and I know the student debt is good debt, but for everybody listening, like I told Brooke, I started out with 90K in student debt, and to this day I'm down to I think 14,000. I know, isn't that crazy? It's crazy.
Amazing.
It's crazy, but my goal is to complete this whole payment before I turn 31. And I don't share that with a lot of people, but that has been a reason I work around the clock. There are days I work 12-hour days and I work that, but that is such a goal of mine to accomplish is to figure out how to pay my student loans. And with Brooke's help of like just the organization and her spreadsheets and all of that, like I can look month to month and be like, wow, okay, this is approximately what I'm spending on exactly what, even though I have a business and I get my fresh or my all my spending for my business every month. I look over that and I could see it on my credit card statement. It's really when I break it up and I categorize it and I say, okay, what is me actually putting into savings? What am I spending on rent? What am I doing here? Like those things, seeing it in real time every month has been so helpful in just my financial journey. And if you even like that for the program, I'm like, this is just that alone was so worth it to be able to have it. I know it's so simple, but it's so worth it, guys. You like I'm telling you, just get her, take her course. You can get her stuff. 'Cause again, it's super helpful. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this because this has been on my mind and one of my goals is like we talked about this in the program, like renting versus buying. I think you have a video on your Instagram about it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that was something for a long time I've wanted to, buy a home. Like I'm like, I want to buy a home. That is a goal, but also I wanted to rent out property. Like that's my thing. I'm like, I want to rent and do that. So what I'm living in right now is the landlord owns the house and I pay the rent that is pretty much paying their mortgage. Like 100% I already know it's paying. And like that's eventually what I want to have. But I've read so many things. People have told me over the years, they're like, you're wasting money renting, you're wasting money renting. And I'm like, well, with the economy right now, am I really wasting money? So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that and like renting versus buying, because that has been a huge, I just feel like a huge conversation with my friends in our 30s and our 40s who rent and also are owning. And we're just like, what one's better? So if you want to share your insight on that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think that it's an interesting conversation. It's part of like the American dream of wanting to own a home, which,
Yeah.
I agree with. I rent right now and I would love to own my own space because I think that that's valuable. But, in a place like New York, owning is relative because we pay so much in taxes. And if you stop paying your taxes, that piece of property, you can kiss
It's
it
gone.
goodbye. Like that's not, so,
Yeah.
owning it's still relative, but so I think that something that people don't understand is that when you buy a home, you are paying interest on what the money that you're taking out. So if you buy a $400,000 home, but you have a 7% interest rate, I can't do the math off the top of my
It's
head,
okay.
but roughly by the end of the mortgage, I would imagine you're probably paying about 800,000 for that home because you're paying 7% in interest. Your interest, is compounding. It's a big part of the payment that you're making every month. So you look at it, you're like 7% interest rate. I can afford the payment. It's 2, 3,000, whatever it is per month. But then when you actually look at that 3,000 per month times 12 months by 30 years, it adds up to something like I said, like 800,000,
Yeah.
which you're like, wait, I thought I only paid 400,000 for that home.
Yeah.
So that is something that most people don't understand when walking in. And if you buy a home and you're going to rent it out and get your mortgage covered, I mean, that's awesome because by the end, then that tenant paid that whole 400,000, but they also
Yeah.
paid 100,000. So that can be a great investment because you walk away with the home. But with the whole American dream thing, it's just that people don't understand how much they could really be paying for a home later on. And also the
Yeah.
idea of being locked into something. When we want a home, we're like, okay, but I wanted to have this and I wanted to have this. And then before you know it, like I said, your home is in the driver's seat and you need a job to keep paying for that, as opposed to you being in the driver's seat and living in something that you can afford. So a good rule of thumb is to spend roughly 30% of your take home income on your home is a good, like, spending over that. It's over and under is both possible, but if you're spending 50 to 60% of your income on your home, you're not leaving much money to invest or do other things. And your
Yeah.
home isn't necessarily an investment unless you're going to rent it out later on or you're going to rent it to another tenant. It's more of like your place to live. You could make money on it when you
Yeah.
sell it in 30 years, maybe, but remember, making money is also relative because if you sell it for 800,000 and it doubled, you paid that 400 extra 400,000 in interest. So like
Yeah.
when people say quote unquote made money on it, it's kind of like, well, did you factor in the interest? So I don't know
Yeah.
if I'm rabbit holing or if you need to
No, that's
redirect
great.
me, but
That's great. You're no, you're right on because that's something I think about too. Is like I think of even my grandma's house and hers. I think my mom was like, "Yeah, it's like 900 a month for mortgage." I was like, "I'm sorry, what? It's what? A whole house is what?" And I think it's funny because she's had it for so long. And part of me has thought of like, do I buy it and then rent it out? Like, should that be an investment for me? And it's one of those, it's just a time where you're like, do I buy? Do I rent? Do I buy? But the 30% is what I remember you taught in our course. And that's something that I follow, I'm like, no, I want to make sure I'm saving room to spend money on or hit my investments, like do my fidelity, do everything I need to do, pay off my college or like add $1,000 every month to my student debt and make sure I'm doing XYZ. So I mean, your spreadsheet, like I said, it's been a game changer to just break down even like the percentages to see what I'm spending on everything. So really, like it's been very eye-opening, and I'm so glad I took your course because I'm relieved in a way because have felt this pressure that I need to buy because I'm wasting money on renting. But I need to remember that this is not it's spending. Like I'm not wasting any money because I have a place to live. So I don't know if you've navigated conversations around that or like how to tell people like what wasting money per se is versus like spending, like investing in the right things. Do you have a definition for like people who just waste money, or if you want to talk about that, like I mean, because I ideally at the end of the day, you're going to spend money on things you want to spend money on and invest in the things that you want to invest. But some people will be like, I don't, you've probably seen those reels of people being like, I'm going to buy a $3,000 dress because I wear it 30 times. So I'm only really spending this amount of money. I don't know if you've seen that, but like, do you have people who, what do you say to people that are like wasting money or say that they're investing in things that aren't long term? Like, I don't know if you want to just bounce off what I'm like kind of rambling on, to
Yeah.
talk about that.
I think that at the end of the day, like I said, it matters if you're in the driver's seat. So if you're going to buy a $3,000 dress and then you're going to be stressed for the next 3 months trying to pay that off and you can't go visit your family for Christmas or you can't go like with all of my clients, everybody in my programs, I do not care what you spend your money on. That is honestly not my place to judge. If you can afford to do it and it makes you happy and at the end of the day you have peace, that is what's most important to me. So if you have peace when you're spending, 60% of your income on your home because it's the best thing in your life and you don't care that you can't afford to put money towards other things, as long as you have enough to be able to retire someday, but
Hmm.
you never buy any new clothes, you never go on any vacations, like that is a choice that I am so glad that you have made. And I always say, like, you can have anything you want, you just can't have everything you want. So
Mm,
you can spend money in whatever way works for you, but you need to think about your peace and you need to think about being able to retire
yeah.
and have an emergency fund if something happened. Those are the most important things to me. But otherwise, like, I don't think that buying a primary residence, a home, is necessarily like an investment in the way that it's going to, make you money later on,
Yeah.
unless you're going to rent it out. But it could be an investment in yourself, just like paying for
Yep.
the gym, right?
Yep.
Or paying for, you like to get your nails done. And that's
Yep.
where there could, like, sometimes people demonize, especially with women, like, oh, you get your nails done, that's a waste of money, or oh,
Yeah.
you buy this car.
And
I
that.
think no one can tell you how to spend your money if you have a plan in place that sets you up for peace at the end of the day, at the end of the year.
Yeah. And I mean that was very well put. Like honestly, you're a pro at this and everything you've done. And I don't know if you've seen, I mean you've seen I'm sure everything in regards to people coming in with different financial situations. I don't even know if I shared with you. I found out I do have a 403B. Did I tell you that?
Oh,
I do.
congrats.
No. I'm trying to move it like to out of teaching. I'm trying to transfer it over and it has been like
Okay.
ever since I left the program, it's been this long of a process of doing it, but it's almost done. It's almost
Okay.
figured out. We got it. We figured it out, but it was just because I'm trying to consolidate everything into one for retirement. And just because I'm not seeing myself going back to teaching right now, like for the next at least 5 years, I want to really focus on my business. But that was something like I was like, oh my gosh, now I know what to do because I took your course. So this has been super helpful. And I would love to just hear more. I know we talked a lot about your course. We talked about a lot about finances, but just like who you are. I know you have a story. I've heard the story. You shared it. You shared it on your Instagram, but I would love to share this time for you to, showcase the story. I know you had a pivotal moment in your life. You probably had a few, but I would love for you to share, if you don't mind, like that a pivotal moment and how you overcame that experience and the financial part and you teaching, like all of that. I remember you shared that and I was just like, wow, this girl has a story. Like she's been through a lot and she's here today and she used her money smart in a smart fashion. So, yeah, if you'd love to share that, I would love to hear it.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity to share
Yeah.
about it. It's really close to my heart, and I don't talk about it a lot because it can be it's personal, but I do like to for people to understand that what happened to me could happen to anyone. So just a little bit about it. So I was teaching a few years ago. I was teaching full time. I was teaching middle school, and I had my business that I was running, partly on the side because financial education is important to me. It was something that I was doing kind of for fun, honestly, like at night and in the summer. And I was in a car accident, as in a car accident that completely changed my life. I had a concussion, which is, a mild brain injury, but I could not get better from my injury, unfortunately. I had trouble doing pretty much everything. Like I had trouble walking, moving around. I couldn't read. And so after so many tests and months, we realized that I was actually born with a neurological disorder that I didn't know about until I had this accident. The head trauma made it symptomatic, and the only way to solve it was with neurosurgery. So it was about a year and a half between from the very first accident to like through all the therapies to neurosurgery and recovery. And there was just no way for me to be teaching in the classroom at that time. So by this time, I was really lucky because I had an emergency fund, I had income earning investments, so I was able to pay for all of these super expensive treatments. I lost my health insurance, but
Yep.
I always knew in theory that it's important to have an emergency fund. Like I had
Yeah.
one. But when this happened, I used so much of my emergency fund. My investments, they continued. It was a good year for the market.
Yeah.
For me while this was happening. So my money continued growing because of that. But it was just like an oh crap moment of most people don't have this. Most people don't have an emergency fund. Most people are living
Oh,
paycheck to paycheck. And if I had to continue going to work every day, like I tried, believe me, I tried to go to work while I was sick. I would not be able to drive home. I would like have these terrible episodes
mm,
and things. So anyway, I was trying to work because of my motivation. I wanted to be there, but it wasn't a
yeah.
financial thing. But I could only imagine if I didn't have the money to take the time off. I had to take off, to have surgery. It was a very long time to recover. And I was able to support myself through that recovery, which is like I'm immensely grateful for. And I actually know people now who have the condition that I have, and they're not able, unfortunately, to take time off of work to do this type of surgery. And so every single day they're just sick and getting sicker. So anyway, it was that was kind of a spiral, but it's just something that's close to my heart because you never know when a medical disaster can strike. And I learned through that taking care of your health is the most important thing because, nothing else in my life mattered when I was sick all the time. I
Yeah.
couldn't do much. And so being able to like actually get that treatment was like probably one of the most important things in my life. I almost get emotional.
Yeah. I mean, health is wealth. It's like
Exactly.
you can't, I mean, first of all, thank you for sharing that story. I always like to say you never know who's listening and who's going through something like this. And a lot of people will look on the surface and they assume you're an overnight success. They assume, oh, this person just grew up with privilege. They didn't have to work hard. Their daddy gave them money or this gave it. And it's like you it goes to show like how resilient you are of going through that and how important like making sure you have a savings account or making sure you have an emergency fund and also just making sure you're taking care of your health and that like all of that accumulated into one right now is just, it's so admirable. That thank you for sharing your story. I know it could be, it's emotional, it's dear in the heart, but I know people listening, every person has something that they've gone through that they're either scared to share, or that they, feel like that is going to be a stopper in their journey of being like, oh my gosh, this thing happened and I can't go pursue my dreams because what if it happens again? Or
Mhm.
like, and that's, I mean, even for me being a business owner on my own, no financial support, like I'm sure my parents, God forbid something happened, they would tap into their 401k to take out money to help. But like, I set myself up because I want to make sure, God forbid something happened. Like even last year, I resigned from my teaching job to do my business, and I was living in black mold, and I was so sick all last year. I was in and out of the hospital. I was in urgent care. I was on every kind of medicine, steroids galore. I was told over and over, it's just anxiety, it's this. And I had breathing problems. I was out for 2 months because I tore part of my rib from coughing so much. I'm a coach. It infected my job. I was calling out of the teaching. I had a panic attack while teaching middle school. Like it was all that, and I was gaslit
Mhm.
because I was living in black mold, and the apartment community was like, "No, you're fine." And so for me, I had gone through other health issues in the past, but that's like the guy, I hired somebody. I paid 2,500 for a scientist because the person they hired went in and said, "You have a livable amount of mold." I hired somebody to come in, pull back the wall because there were mushrooms growing in my apartment, literal mushrooms growing. I have pictures. Um, and he pulled back the wall and he's like, no wonder you're sick. There's literally black mold behind your wall. And they kept painting over it. And so I was so sick mentally, like I had a lot of mental things. And I sometimes think, I'm like, was that a reason, like my breakup, like the relationship ended? I lived in it for 3 years. And the guy said, he's like, if you weren't as healthy as you were, he's like, you'd be on a ventilator. I went to a pulmonologist. He said I had the lungs of a smoker. Like it was so bad. My lungs were awful. And he's like, it's going to take you a long time. It hasn't even been a year since I've been out. Like it's been last September. But my point was, August 8th, I resigned from teaching. And I said, that's fine. I have 6 months of savings. Within 24 hours after spending like 1,200 to stay at a hotel, renting a room at a friend's, going to live with my parents, buying takeout because I didn't have a kitchen to cook in, like all the time, and then getting this new place, putting down the rent, like $13,000 was gone. And like it was just all my savings. So I was like, okay, Julia, it's okay. You're going to be okay because now you're doing this for your health. You're spending the money on your health. But yeah, last year I was really, really, and I haven't shared that whole story, but like people have gotten clips on the podcast of listening to that. But I was so gaslit and just like, I had a friend, like I have all pictures and everything, but I was so sick all the time. And people were like, it's because you're vegan, it's because of this. And then I was like, now that I've been out, thank God, have not been sick once since I've
Oh
been in this
my God.
apartment since
Thank
last
God. But see, this is
October.
why you
Yeah.
listen to yourself.
Yeah,
Like,
so last October I got this apartment. It's almost been a year. But my point was during at this time, it was like September 16th, had I officially got out of the apartment. I spoke to a lawyer. He's like, get the heck out. Like now you're gonna die. He's like, you gotta get out. So my point was though, I'm so grateful, even though I took that leap of faith leaving my stable job. I was like, okay, at least I have savings and everything I could bounce off of. But I'll tell you, it went quick. It's the money just went quick, and but I was like, it's okay. I'm still making this decision because I have to get healthy. I have to take care
mhm.
of myself, and I have to move into a new place. And it was a lot, but just like you sharing your story, I mean, yours was very like you went through so much, and I'm sure mentally it was a lot too. It's like you are so resilient in the fact that you're like, nope, this happened. I understand how important money is. I want to help other people not be in the same situation I'm in. So I think that's why I wanted to showcase your story because there's more than just you're building this business, you left teaching, like you're doing, like you are such a person with depth. And I want to highlight that because a lot of people they resonate with that. They can connect and know that, wow, this person was through a lot and this is her story and this is why she wants to help us so much with finances because she doesn't want us to be in a place where we can't help ourselves. We can't get to a point where if God forbid this happened, I need to do it. Like, no, any parent, if you said a child needed surgery or they were going to die, a parent would do anything under the sun to get that money. Does not matter if the money would appear. If it was $50,000, that parent would get $50,000 from somewhere, whether it's credit cards, whatever it is, to save their child. And your goal, I know something we talked about is you just want to help prepare people so they don't have to scatter and they don't have to get to that point. Like person making 40K a year can still figure out budget, even if it's $20 a week that they're
Mhm.
putting into savings. Like you teach that and you I know have gone through a lot. Like that's something that helps make you the person you are today. And like that helps add to your story. And I think that's so beautiful that you have that experience. So again, I commend you for sharing because it's just people who listen, they all have stories. And I think that you just have worked so hard to get where you are today, and I see it, and I see your passion, I see it shine through, and anybody that takes your course is so lucky to be learning from you. So
Thank you.
you're
I
welcome.
appreciate that. And I think you're right. Like it depends, everybody has different income coming in, everybody
Yeah.
has different expenses, but like we work so hard all the time, no matter how much money you make, we're working hard
Yeah.
every single day. And if we're not putting anything aside for ourselves, like it's not like you said, if you had a kid, you would do anything you could to save that person. But sometimes we don't treat ourselves like that.
No.
Like we're not, putting the money that we work so hard for, some of it into a bucket to save for an emergency or a retirement, like these things that are so important and giving ourselves like treating yourself how you would treat somebody else
Yes.
that's important to you financially is something that a lot of us need to learn to do and need to practice. And I've always been somebody who wasn't so big of a spender, and I really religiously put money into, like I said, the emergency fund rather than maybe doing some other fun things, and it ended up being so worth it. So it can be hard to like plan for future you, but
Yeah.
that future you is like probably the most important person
Yeah.
that there is or that
Yeah, that's like, well, that's with working out too. Like you exercise. I tell everybody in my classes, I'm like, I tell my personal training clients, I tell all of them, you are not working for the version of you right now. You are working for your future self. And the quote you had said for even investing, right? You have no problem spending on somebody else. I do an exercise when I do workshops. I have people close their eyes and I say, picture the person you love the most. How would you treat them? Would you give them therapy? Would you take them to the gym? Would you fuel them with all the healthy foods? Would you spend that top dollar on a coach? Would you do all that? And then now pause. Why don't you treat yourself that same way? Like where's the disconnect, right? Like where's the disconnect with the person you love the most and yourself? And I think so many people just don't, they don't take that leap. And even for myself, like as a business starting, I was like, no, I'm determined to learn finances. I will make it work to take your course. I will put the money in because this is important to me. And then even the business course that I took, like I was like, I will spend the money to take this, even if it's whatever, working more shifts or working 15-hour days just so I can make sure that I can get this knowledge and this education because it's going to help you propel in the future. Like this is like you said, it's not just for right now. It's not something that's going to feel like going to get a top-notch ice cream in the city that's probably $20. Like you're giving knowledge that can help people long term. So that's really what I learned so much about your course is just like feeling so confident with finances and actually understanding terms, knowing the difference between, I mean, I knew what a Roth IRA, but was like even stocks and bonds. I walked in, I was like, I don't know what either of them are. So it's like, that one's good.
it's okay. Most people don't.
Yeah, they're like, you just say, you're like, yeah, I invest in stocks and bonds. I don't know what they are, but that's what I invest in. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And I don't know if you wanted to share anything else, just about your business or something, something that you feel like people should take away or a piece of advice you would give somebody, because I would just like to highlight that and give you the chair to share anything else you'd like to.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about so many interesting things of like I think a big topic, with all of Best Life by You and what you're teaching and promoting
Yeah.
in taking care of yourself and self-care, I think that it's not full and it's not complete unless you also have your financial wellness, which is
Yeah.
why I'm so glad that you brought me in. And I think it ties in so well because it's not something that when in the health and wellness space, it's not something that I hear about a lot because we think about finance like finance bros and people in suits, but like
Yeah.
everybody has money,
Yeah.
everybody has bills to pay.
Yes.
Like we have, even if you don't have money, like you spent it all, you got a bunch of debt, like you still have to deal with money to
Yes.
be like an adult
Yep.
person in society. And so we often think that it's like reserved for a certain type of person, but just like how anybody can improve their exercise or their nutrition, like finance is a huge part of that and mental well-being. And money is it's the number one thing that people fight about in relationships. Like so
Yes.
it's hard to achieve
Yep.
relationship peace without money. So anyway, I think that focusing on like it's okay to have money fears. It's okay to have money insecurities. It's okay to not want to talk about it, but holding space in your day to think about it and to be mindful about the money decisions that you make. I talk a lot about having a money journal, and that is something, if there's some sort of journal or something that you talk about with your clients or wellness or some way to put the thoughts that you have and the plans that you have into action, like creating a little teeny place or a
Yeah.
place in your notes app, the feelings that come up with money, or like this paycheck, what are you going to do with it? Like making a plan for it, starting somewhere to just have it be part of your daily life and your routine so you can take control and put yourself in the space where you are in charge of your money and you are driving again, because a lot of people aren't.
Yeah, I mean, very on top, very on point, on brand also, which just are both of our topics. But yeah, again, I appreciate so much that you came on to talk about it. And for those listening, yeah, Brooke do you still do weekly office hours like for your program and stuff? Okay, so anybody that is interested in our course, I'll put all the information below so y'all can go ahead, sign up. I know she does master class as well if you wanted to learn more about her, but truly, like just taking it from me, she taught me so much. And if just like anything with my coaching program, with hers, with whoever's you take, it's all about what you put in, right? Like you have to show up to office hours, you have to show up to the calls, you have to show up with a mindset that you are willing to learn, you are willing to be wrong, you're willing to learn. Like there's so much that goes into, I know both of our coaching, but Brooks especially with just having those office hours, showing up when you guys sign up for her course. Like it's so worth it. So again, I'm just sharing my aspect and my part of my experience with her because as Brooke touched on, I harp on holistic wellness, and you can't have that holistic wheel complete without even just the aspect of financial that people don't talk about, but yet it helps keep the wheel going round. So you want to make sure you are investing in that. But thank you so much again, Brooke, for your time today. And I really, really appreciate it. So again, everybody, I am going to put all her information below. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day and continue living your best life. I hope you all enjoyed today's episode. If you would like to continue to get these episodes first thing, then go ahead and subscribe to my channel on YouTube and on Spotify under Best Life by You. If you're interested in working together, y'all can go ahead and visit bestlifebyyou.com/work with me, or go ahead and follow me on Instagram at NutriFitJulia. Send me a DM or just follow for more information, fun tips, and just a lot of humor. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Let's continue to live the best life by you.